Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy. Won it going away, had something like 2,000 points. Number two was Max Duggan, who had 1194, something like that. But Caleb Williams got, he won. He won going away, and I don't really have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I think he was very good from start to finish this year. I think he was good in game 1, good in game 12, and good in between. And there were other contenders that would have bad games. He never really did. Even when they would lose, he still acquitted himself well on an individual basis. Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner. No problems with it for me. Casey Smith, you?
Yeah, no problems for me either. And I know, a lot of people looked at what happened in the Pac-12 championship and thought maybe he didn't deserve it. We talked about it after that. He did get very injured. He was completely one-dimensional as opposed to what we normally see from him. And it was one of those years where, multiple guys emerged as the leader, and then they either got injured like Hendon Hooker or had a game, where, CJ Stroud losing to Michigan, whatever it may be, everything along the way, just instead of the dominoes like stacking up, which we've seen in the past where guys just keep making more and more of a case, it felt like it was going to be the last guy standing to not fuck it up. And that's what it felt like. Even though Caleb didn't have a great game, he was still injured. So I didn't have a problem with it. And what was really interesting was looking at the full list of all the votes. It's exactly the guys that, we anticipated 1 through 10 when they put that out. But when you look at like some, there were 3 first place votes for Drake May. There were 4 first place votes for Bijan Robinson. So even though that's nowhere near what Caleb got, that'll tell you that 1 through 10, there were still people in the country that thought even those guys deserved first place votes. So it was just kind of a weird year for the Heisman.
Georgia fans just got all over me for my take on Stetson Bennett. He shouldn't have been in New York. I maintain that he shouldn't have been in New York. Doesn't mean he is not a very good player and Georgia's not a very good team. They're the best team. But on an individual award, I don't think he did enough individually to garner going in place of some of the guys he went in place of. I just burped in the middle of my sentence. But I don't think he did not garner enough. He didn't do enough individually Hendon Hooker's the guy I'm talking about. Hendon Hooker, to me, is the great robbery in this Heisman season. Now, he was never going to win it because he got hurt and they lost the game. But I still feel like even with his injury and the fact they lost that game to South Carolina, I still think he should have finished second. Like if I look at this entire year, Caleb Williams was consistently good from start to finish. Up until his injury, Hendon Hooker was incredible, except the game against Georgia, which nobody's going to be good against Georgia's defense. So I thought every criticism leveled at me by Georgia fans saying, you just hate Stetson, you hate this. No, I just think Hendon Hooker was better. On an individual basis, Hendon Hooker was better than Stetson Bennett this year.
I think that the biggest thing with Hendon Hooker, when you look at, I agree, he should have been there. I like the fact that he wasn't there was robbery. And when I love whenever all the total votes come out, because you can actually look and see, how many first, second, and third place votes come out. And he got a ton of third place as well. So that just tells you he should have been in New York. He shouldn't have won the thing by the end of it. But I think that so many people really look at, how exciting he was and how awesome that offense was. And that game against Georgia. And I understand not many people are going to look good against Georgia. We get that. But the way that game was played, whether you agree or disagree with it, it was like the offensive line, the offense, everybody struggled. And I think people use that as like, okay, well, his best game of the year was a dud. However, it's not like they lost that game because of Hendon Hooker. So he absolutely should have been there, but Caleb Williams deserved to win it by the end of it. And I know there were a ton of Tennessee fans that were talking shit last night. Like, you can't make the argument that Hendon Hooker, after losing to Georgia, getting hurt, obviously they lost South Carolina. You can't make the argument now that he should have won it over Caleb Williams. There's just no.
I feel like I could make that argument. I'm not going to. I'm fine with the winner, but I feel like that argument could be made if you just were dedicated to making it. But ultimately, Hendon Hooker gets all this. Oh, he didn't beat Georgia. He didn't beat Georgia. Yeah, he was incredible against Alabama, and he went to LSU and beat them by 1,000 at their place. He had a lot of things, but ultimately, I still think
he'd absolutely deserve to be there. There's no doubt. Go ahead.
I still think the Heisman has lost their way in the way they vote. I mean, 34 people voted Stetson Bennett as the best player in America. That happened. 34 people voted Stetson Bennett, who finished 42nd in passing touchdowns, the very best player in America.
It really is.
Hold on. No, I'm sorry. I'm actually wrong. It was 36.
36.
It was 36. And it's more than the combined first place votes of Bryce Young and Hendon Hooker. That is a problem.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is because it's 34 between Bryce Young and Hendon
Right.
Hooker. So for the first place votes. I just, when you look at this Heisman race, I think the reason, and I mean, I understand anytime I talk good about USC or good about Caleb Williams or Lincoln Riley, everyone's like, you're stuck on that. My thing is USC would not be even in the conversation to be in the college football playoff by the end of the year if it wasn't for that offense, because we saw how horrible their defense was, no tackling. So, and Hendon Hooker is obviously a huge reason for Tennessee's success as well, but Tennessee's defense had to step up in multiple situations. That game against Alabama and keeping Bryce Young somewhat contained until, he had his Bryce Young moments, but Caleb Williams off of USC is not even in the picture at all. Hendon Hooker, though, again, it's easy to say, it's at the end of the day, one guy wins it and that's fine. And, Caleb Williams will be up on stage for years and decades to come, like the other guys are, but still inviting somebody to New York is an honor as well. And Hendon Hooker absolutely got robbed of that.